Okay, let's dive right into this fascinating explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely brilliant called the Cockroach Theory for self-development. Now, I know it sounds a little strange at first, but we're going to use a really simple, everyday story set in a restaurant to prove a massive point. Our choices decide exactly what we go through in life. It's not the events themselves, but our choices that totally dictate our experience. So get comfortable, and let's walk through this incredible psychological framework together.
Section 1, the uninvited guest. Panic in a restaurant.
I want you to picture a completely relatable, quiet setting. People are just enjoying their meals, sipping their coffee, having some pleasant conversations. Imagine you're sitting there at this restaurant. Maybe you're just watching the room. And suddenly, out of absolutely nowhere, a flying cockroach swoops in and lands right on a lady nearby. The shock is immediate. She starts screaming out of pure, unadulterated fear. Her face is panic-stricken, her voice is trembling, and she starts jumping up and down, frantically waving both her hands in the air, desperately trying to get rid of this bug.
Section 2, chaos and contagion. The spread of panic. Well, things unravel quickly here. First, the lady screams and jumps in a total panic. Second, her reaction becomes instantly contagious. Everyone in her group gets completely panicky, their stress levels absolutely spiking just by being near her. Third, in her frantic state, she actually manages to push the cockroach away, but no way, it immediately lands on another lady in the exact same group. In step 4, it's now the second lady's turn to continue the drama. The panic is basically a relay race at this point, bouncing from person to person as the bug takes its chaotic flight path. It is pure, contagious pandemonium. Section 3, the waiter's composure, a calm approach. Now the waiter sees all this commotion and rushes forward to the rescue. And in this crazy relay of throwing, the cockroach next falls directly onto the waiter's shirt. But watch what happens next. The waiter doesn't scream. He doesn't flail around. He stands incredibly firm. He completely composes himself and simply observes the behavior of the cockroach on his shirt. He just watches it. And when he's confident enough, he calmly grabs it with his fingers and tosses it out of the restaurant. Complete calm and composure under the exact same circumstances that literally just caused a total meltdown at the table. Section 4, the real disturbance, finding the root cause. So, we really have to ask ourselves, was the cockroach actually responsible for this histrionic behavior? I want you to really think about that for a second. We just watched a room devolve into total chaos, and then we watched a man handle the exact same trigger with zero issue. This right here is where we shift from a funny restaurant story into some deep psychological insight. I mean, think about it. If the cockroach itself inherently caused the chaos, like if the bug possessed this magical power to dictate a human's emotional state, then why wasn't the waiter disturbed? He handled it near to perfection, without any chaos whatsoever. The math just doesn't add up if we blame the bug. Which leads us to this incredibly powerful realization. It is not the cockroach, but the inability of those people to handle the disturbance caused by the cockroach that disturbed the ladies. It was their internal inability to cope that was the true source of all that drama. The bug was just an event. The disturbance itself was completely generated from within. Section 5, reacting versus responding, 2 different approaches. Let's break down what these 2 approaches actually look like in real time. On one hand, we have the ladies, panic-stricken, jumping around, fueling this contagious drama. On the other hand, we have the waiter, who stood firm, remained entirely composed, took time to observe, and acted with confidence. We basically have 2 identical situations, but 2 totally different paradigms of human behavior. Let's formally define what we saw from the ladies. Reacting is an instinctive, unthinking, and often chaotic action driven by immediate emotion. When you react, you're basically falling into a trap. You're letting an external event completely hijack your nervous system and dictate your actions before your brain even has a chance to catch up. Now, contrast that directly with responding. Responding is a well-thought-out, composed, and deliberate action taken after observation. It is the conscious choice the waiter made. He didn't let the bug dictate his feelings. He took a second, observed the situation, and then confidently chose exactly how he was going to handle it. Section 6, choosing your experience, handling disturbances. Now, obviously, we aren't just talking about actual insects here. We're really talking about everyday cockroaches. It might be the shouting of a parent, a shouting boss at work, an upset spouse, or simply terrible traffic jams on the road. These are the unexpected, unwanted things that land on us every single day. We all have them.
But the reality is this: it is not the external problem that disturbs me. My inability to handle the disturbance upsets me. It's not the shouting boss or the traffic jam itself that ruins your day. It is your own inability to handle the disturbance they cause. When we take ownership of our mindset like this, it completely changes our entire experience of life. We regain our agency.
I really want to pause here and let the gravity of this realization settle in. More than the problem, it's my reaction to the problem that creates chaos in my life. If there's one massive takeaway you remember from this explainer, let it be this: you have the power to stop the chaos. Remember, our choices decide exactly what we go through. Which leads to the ultimate realization about human contentment. A person who is happy is not happy because everything is right in his life. Let me say that again. Happiness does not come from having a flawless, bug-free environment where nothing ever goes wrong and the traffic is always perfectly clear. Because, let's be real, that world doesn't exist. Instead, he is happy because his attitude towards everything in his life is right. Happiness and peace, they're not lucky breaks. They are deliberate choices we make by actively deciding to maintain the right attitude. We have to choose to stop reacting blindly. We have to choose to always respond thoughtfully and deliberately.
So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Because, another bug is definitely going to land. When the next cockroach lands in your life, whether it's a stressful email, a sudden delay, or a really tough conversation, will you choose to react like the ladies in the restaurant, or will you choose to respond like the waiter? The choice is entirely yours, and that choice will decide everything you go through. Thanks so much for exploring this with me.